Well, I think today's been very interesting. I mean, Duncan McLennan started us out with a whole series of challenges, a reinterpretation of what's happened over the last 20 years or so in terms of the situating of housing in infrastructure and the links between growth and inclusion, and showing in a sense what was the same and what was different, what was new and novel about the approach being adopted by Scottish Government and actually other governments around the world, and what had happened 20 years ago when there'd been a kind of acceptance that growth and inclusion went together. We know now that they don't necessarily go together, that growth doesn't necessarily deliver inclusion. So what we're talking about now is what kinds of policies could actually help to make sure that we get inclusion as well as growth. But what I'm talking about is the ways in which, in a sense, the ways in which public organisations and third sector organisations work has to change. We really need a collaborative approach between different bodies, which is not just a question of getting meetings and partnerships established. It's actually energising people and changing the mindset so that these partnerships work in a proper collaborative way. And that's not easy for a lot of people. People are brought up to work with a particular organisational focus, with their own clear goals. A lot of the ways in which people are managed are about achieving particular objectives that are specific to the organisation. So we have to change that if we're going to have effective collaboration and partnership, because people have to embrace shared goals. They have to be prepared to release their control over resources so that they can gain some influence over the way in which other people use resources to obtain a real partnership advantage. And I think inclusive growth is about bringing together housing, economic development, infrastructure investment, social policy, and the role of business and government in a way that brings them together, that allows them to identify shared objectives, develop a logic chain of steps that they're going to take in order to ensure these objectives are met, and then work together to realise them. One of the things that I think is involved with this collaboration is being realistic about what it is that you can do and how you're going to go about it. I mean, too much policy in the past, I think, has been very high flown. We're going to abolish child poverty. We're going to end inequality or significantly reduce it. These things are very, very difficult to do. So I think what we need to do is to establish a realistic process, realistic objectives that we can move towards, and then begin to apply them in a practical way, and do it in a way, as inclusion implies, to involve the people who are going to benefit from it, so that communities, neighbourhoods, as well as a top-down policy led by government, are actually brought together, fused together, and the practices that need to make that work are put in place. So Duncan talked about the structures and the approach. What I'm talking about is the methods of delivering collaboration and how we can actually change the mindset of individuals and the approach that they have to the things that they're doing, so that we actually get true collaboration and we can actually move towards the objectives, agreed objectives that people set for themselves.